has a background that I wanted all of you to hear and to share, and that is about himself personally. He comes from Mississippi. His mother left him when he was about 2 or 4 years old, and he didn't see her until after he become an elder person. He was a much older man, not many years ago, and I want him to give the history and the background of why the mother had to leave. It's very important that everybody get a chance to see the importance of what happens to our parents sometimes, and we don't get a chance to know them. Let me say this, that you're very fortunate to know your parents and that they've been able to stay with you and you've been able to keep in touch with you. Here's an individual that will give a little bit of background that he was riding a freight train from the age of 9 years old until they finally stopped him, called him the authority, and put him on off the freight train, and they put him in the army. And from then on, he'll give a background. And when he first found his mother, and he hadn't seen her since she was 4 years old, if I got the years wrong, incorrect, he'll straighten that out. But then he finally found her in Chicago, and what happened, and how he had to then take her and bring her back to California, and he took care of her and so forth. So Brother Hashim, again, I want you to give, if you don't mind, Brother Hashim, the background that you have. You know, by the way, Brother Hashim considered himself as a Seminole. Now, again, well, many of us don't know what that means. But a Seminole basically is black people that's considered as Indians. You think of Seminole Indians, but you don't know that they're black people. Yeah. You know, and so and then there's a whole background about
leave something for me to say.
Oh, you got it, brother. Go right ahead, Brother Hashim. You got it. All right. You got to handle it however you like to do, Brother Hashim. It's all yours.
My name is Thabiti Shabasinole Hashim Muhammad. Muhammad's the last name that was given to me by Minister Louis Farrakhan because of being one of the elders in the Nation of Islam. Thabiti means an upright person. And Shabasinole is the tribal name. The tribe of Shabazz, in which all black people came from. In fact, it's the oldest tribe on earth that we know of. All of the tribes came from that tribe. And I'm a Seminole. Seminole means that you're mixed with Indian. The word semi means half. Y media una española means half black and half Indian. And there's many of us in this country got polluted by Indians. About 67% of us got polluted by Indians, not by white man. White man polluted us too. And when I said to use the word pollution, I'm talking about anything that's original person, anything other than original person is pollution. You are very fortunate to be black. Black is the original people of the universe, not only this planet, but all the other planets and solar systems out there. We are the ones that have no birthday and have no beginning and no ending. We will always be here and cannot be destroyed. It's impossible to destroy black people. Remember that. The solution to this, showing the truth of it, you cannot destroy a drop of water. You can boil it, you can fry it, you can stew it, it goes right up, comes right back down, and every drop of water that ever was on this earth is still here now. You can't go any place. So black man will come right out of that drop of water just like a tadpole. So if the man drops a bomb here and kills everything on the planet, he can't destroy us because eventually we're going to come right back out of the drop of water. and be right back here on this earth. Reason why I say that, all of you people and brothers and sisters here, I want you to know that you are somebody. You are really somebody. There's none before you, and there'll be none after you. You are the original people. You as old as God. So it's no beginning to you. Alpha and Omega. Now, I want to say about myself, I'm not a well-educated person as you think of education, going to the universities and schools and things like that. I went to the 3rd grade and Smith Robinson School in Jackson, Mississippi. After the 3rd grade, I had no more schooling after that until I came out of the service. I'll tell you about that. But I was born in Yazoo City, Mississippi. That's about 45 miles from Jackson, Mississippi. It's a little town, a little city, and everybody knows everybody there. And at the time that I was coming along in Jackson, Mississippi, just about everybody knew everybody in Jackson, Mississippi at that time. But I lived during the Depression years, and 19 and 20 when I was born. That makes me 84 years plus. This coming May, I'll be 85 years old. And I've witnessed a lot of things in this life. Some of you people are very young, you don't know these things. But we caught hell during the Depression years. You think you're catching hell now? No ways near it. I had to eat out of the garbage can on State Street in Jackson, Mississippi in order to survive. I'm very happy, and I thank Allah every day of my life to let me live here on this planet this long. And if you turn to the ways and the means of God, you live here that long too. And always remember, especially you young people, remember, honor thy mother and thy father, and thy days will be long upon this land. I'm not just talking about your immediately mother and father. I'm talking about people who are older than you. They can always tell you something. And don't forget, you can tell them something too, because you learn from a little baby. But you learn more from the older people because they have more to offer you. They have a lot of things to offer you. They tell you where that bump's going to be and where that part is going to be, what's going to come in contact with, and you know how to deal with it. I'll tell you about that, about my mother and my father. In 1920, I was born in Yazoo City. When I was 5 years old, my mother killed 3 white men, tried to rape her in Jackson, Mississippi, and she cut their throats from ear to ear. That was a good thing. The reason why I'm telling you this, because my mother is dead now, and there's no statute of limitations on murder, which they would call you black folks. We had to keep this quiet all these many years so they would not catch her or find her. You heard of the Underground Railroads? Well, the Underground Railroad is where they get people out from the south and ship them to north. Go underground and they sleep in hollow logs and trees and stumps and everything else to get out of there and go north above the Mason-Dixie line, which is about the Ohio River. The Ohio River was one of the biggest rivers in the world. That's where my mother had to go out. Now, back up just a little bit for myself. All of my family, my mother, my father's, on both sides, was all Seminoles. And Seminoles is the people were slaves who ran away from the white man on the swamp and went in the swamps and mixed with the Indians. The word semi means half. And when the product of that is a Seminole tribe that was made around Natchez, Mississippi. The Seminole tribe started in Belzoni, 15 miles northwest of Yazoo City, where I was born. It was slaves who ran away, and the dogs was catching them out. Was running the slave down. Now, I'm not sure about this. I think it was a Indian standing up on a knoll. I'm not sure about it, but he pointed down to the slave when the slave was running away from the white man and the dogs, and so he said, "Go this way and go that way," because the Indian knew that part of the world and the country. He knew where all the quicksands were in the swamps, and he told the slave how to go around the quicksands from standing up on that knoll. And incidentally, knolls are usually burying grounds for Indians. And the slave got away. So the white man with the dogs went on in the swamps and got into the quicksand, and the slave got away. And after the slave got away, there's many other places in Mississippi and some in Alabama too, where runaway slaves went and mixed with Indians. And Indians don't like nobody mixing with them at all. I don't know of any tribes of Indians that will mix with you and take you in as a tribe. They take you only honorary. Just like a black woman will go out and have sex, primarily raped. You might as well say rape, because any time that we've been mistreated like we as women, like black women being mistreated, it's a rape charge when they go with white folks. It's really a rape. It's not a rape, say, get in here and do that. Rape comes in many ways. Economics and everything else is being raped. Me, myself, I was raped by a white woman in Jackson, Mississippi when I was 16 years old. I worked for her. I'll tell you about that too. Well, anyway, about the Seminoles, I'll tell you about the Seminoles first. The Seminoles went in and had the first war way back in the 1800s. First war was around Natchez, Mississippi. Full-fledged wars. Now you go try to look up this in the archives and other places, they won't tell you nothing about it. I'm telling you what I know and what my grandfather and my great-great-grandmother. I have my great-grandmother's picture on my wall standing in the cotton fields in Mississippi. I don't have the one of my great-great-grandmother, but I have both of my grandmothers and one of my great-great-grandmothers. And my grandfather was hung by the Ku Klux Klan in Lebanon, Tennessee, somewhere in that neighborhood. And I know many black men and women hung by black folks in Mississippi.
Hung by white folks.
Hung by white folks. My mistake. Hung by them. There was one real light-skinned black woman that had two daughters by a white man. And she wanted her two daughters to go to a white school. And this white man didn't want her going, passing for white. But the black woman sent her there anyway. And did you know one thing? He permitted the Ku Klux Klan to come to the house and take her out and took her in the woods and beat her half to death for sending those two girls to a white school. He said, "Nigger, you must go back and get in your place." And he had those two daughters that he was taking care of. So don't think for one moment that you are going to be accepted in the white race. Those people are never going to accept you. Not because of the color of the skin or anything. It's the very nature of white people that's different. That's why sometimes you'll find some white people that have black skin. You don't know them. But usually, Elijah Muhammad has taught us how to pick out black, white folks. See? But we're not going to worry about them. They're going to be exposed one day themselves. It's a time for everything. Get it back to the Indians. The first war that was fought around Natchez, Mississippi, Port Gibson, in that area. If some of you know the maps in Mississippi, you know just about. That's a little north of New Orleans. And they lost that war. And when you lose a war, you have to run. So some of them run to Texas, and some of them run to Mexico, some went to Cuba. Some went out of there and different places in Central America. So the hardcore ones fled and went to Alabama, where the swamps were thicker. See, we're swamp people. We fight with swamps, with poison dots, and things in your kitchen right now that is you can put together and make poison dots to kill white folks. I did all of that when I was 5 years old. I was thrown in the Pearl River and also the Mississippi River and taught how to get out of quicksand. You know, quicksand is hard. You can get out of that if you know how. Also was taught in the river for these squirrels in the river. You heard of those squirrels in the river? Where they pull you down under the ground, under the water, and drown you? I was taught that when I was 5 years old, and all of my family was taught the same identical thing. They put a rope around your waist, throw you out there, just get out. And sometimes if you was rebellious or something, in which I don't know if any of us were rebellious, they'd let you stay out there and you think you're going to die. But you swim out of there. And when you swim out of there, you with a current going clockwise in the river, you swim clockwise with that. Swim faster than that current's going, and then you can swim right out of there. You understand that? And when you young people go out and learn how to swim, think about that. You never know where you might swim sometimes, and that's how you get out of the quills in the river. And the other things about in quicksands, you get out, it's a different story in quicksand. You close your feet together closely. You don't kick your feet at all, and you just take your hands and spread them out like that, and take your hand, and work it very slow until you move backwards and you hit something in your back, solid ground. Then you know you're near it. Then you can sweep that hand and get up out of quicksand. Can you understand that? There's ways of doing all of these things. When you were a little boy, I taught that. Seminoles are very fighting people. We're known to fight. We've been fighting, and I've been fighting all my life. I have never lost a battle. And I've been in many fights riding freight trains all over the country. I don't like white folks, never will like white folks. Don't care what they say. And you know what they say. If you walk up to a man and ask him, say, "What are you?" And he tells you, "I'm a white man." What does the word white mean? An adjective describing a noun. Is that right? If he tells you he's a white man, he's telling you, "I'm a Ku Klux Klan, I'm all the other things." With that, why don't he just say, "I'm a man"? He designates, he's telling you right now, "I hate your guts." But we don't realize, especially some of our young people don't realize that. Be yourself. Be proud. You don't need to stoop for anybody at any time. You are the mother of civilization. Personally, they say God is a man. They use the word masculine for that, but I don't know. I kind of believe it. God might be a goddess. I don't know. I kind of think that sometimes, because the women contribute so much to our well-being. There's a lot of things. Keep your heads high in the air and let the world know that you are the mother of all civilizations. Males, don't take anything away from him, but he's an individual, and you are a nation of people. Everything comes from you. The whole universe, when we're looking at you, you're looking at the universe right now. We are just the protectors. That's the male's job, is to protect you, because you are everything. Do you understand that? Don't forget that. I just like to express that feelings to you, so that will give you, stick your chest out and keep it out there. You are to be known as somebody. Don't never stoop to nothing. Well, they moved back to the Indians again. The bulk of the of the Indians that fled, they went to Alabama, because the swamps were thicker over in Alabama, so we could hide out. See, we're guerrilla type people. We do the biggest guerrilla warfare than anybody else. White people just know how to guerrilla warfare. They think they know, but they did not. But that guerrilla warfare is built in you already. It's inside of you. Just like God is inside of you. There isn't much God in mankind that it is in man. See, we are man, and mankind is brown, red, yellow, and white. That's the mankind. That's the kind of a man. Remember when they put the man on the moon? They said a small step for man, but a giant step for mankind. For us to be on the moon is a small thing because we put the moon out there. We made the moon, we made the stars, we made everything in the universe. We made the thought that's in your mind. See? So, that tells you right away who is the first people, who is the mother and the father of the universe. Now, get back to the Indians again. They had another war in Alabama, and they fought bravely. Indians are black. Indians are brave, but the combination of blacks and Indians together, you got a lot of power. They lost that war in Alabama, so they had to flee again. Some of them went to Cuba, some of them went to different places in Mexico. So they lost that war and they had to fly to Okeechobee swamps in Georgia. That's the second largest swamp in the United States. And after they got in the Okeechobee swamps, time passes. Now in the meantime, some of you might know, heard of John Brown. Remember John Brown, who was the revolutionist that fought for he's an old white man. He died in the Apalachicola Courthouse in Virginia. That's why they hung him at. But you heard of Nat Turner.
Yes.
Nat Turner, some of his troops was Seminoles. The Seminoles fought with all these rebellious people. And this is where the tribe started. You're not like a Cherney or Shawnee or Cherney or Mohawk. Or those are Indian tribes. Incidentally, the Indians are trying to steal our tribe now and call the Seminole tribe an Indian tribe. It's not an Indian tribe. It's a black Indian tribe. When Columbus came here, was no such thing as a Seminole. Never heard of it. Semi means half black. I went to Florida about 8 months ago, and I almost got lynched down there talking to the Seminoles in Florida, because I told them, I said, you're not, I looked at them, and I told them, you're not a Seminole, you're an Indian. Those are Indians. Then they included the 5 tribes, civilized tribes, of being one of the Seminoles, one of those 5 tribes. There may be civilized tribes, but the point I'm trying to make is that they are not an Indian tribe. They're us. Now, in the meantime, when people run away and have a war and lose a war, they have to flee. They have to run someplace. Some of them that went to Mexico, and Mexico rose up and made their bid from the Spanish to be free. And they elected a president, a Mexican president, and he went to war with Spain. And when they went to war with Spain, they hired some of us Seminoles to help them fight, because we were such great fighters. And so we went out like mercenaries for them. So Mexico lost the war, and one of the generals was in the war, was a Seminole. He said, no, we don't lose no war. And so He picked up farm equipment and went against Spain for Mexico and fought the Spanish and won the war for Mexico. Mexico owe us now, right this day, for getting their freedom. If it wasn't for Seminole, Mexico would not be free today. Spain would own it. I go to Mexico. I speak Spanish a little bit. And every time I see one of those Mexicans make a derogatory statement about black folks, you know, they'd speak it in Spanish and I just let them talk. I never tell them how much Spanish I know. And when I get through with them, then I break it down and start. And about that time, they feel about this minute. And I tell them, you walking on the land that we freed you people off. Mexicans owe us. Don't you forget that. They're under us. Everybody is under us because we're the owner. We freed that country you call Mexico today. Now they had the other wars, you know, I told you they fled. Some of them went to Costa Rica and some went to Cuba. Remember, back about 2 or 3 years ago, Fidel Castro sent people to Angola and to Africa and fought in Angola and Namibia. Those are 2 countries near South Africa. And they caused Mandela to become president. Fidel Castro was paying back the debt that the Seminoles had helped him get his freedom, helped Cuba get his freedom, not him, but Cuba to get their freedom. See, the Seminoles are fought a many times blood. These are the black people we're talking about. I'm telling you many things about this sort of thing because I want you to feel the feeling inside that you're somebody. Don't ever think you're nobody. You need to know all of these histories. You need to know histories about black folks. You need to pick up your dictionaries and your geography and learn as much as you possibly can about the African continent and its people. I have a knowledge of 5 languages. Knowledge of them. I speak Spanish, Portuguese, Hebrew, and Arabic. And I read and write English, and I read a little bit in Arabic and a little bit in Spanish. And I learned Hebrew for working for Jews back in Kansas City. And I was going to move down to Brazil, so I went to school to learn a portion of time, about 4 months, to learn a little bit about Portuguese. But anyway, I guess I have to tell you all of these things about myself. It's not that I'm trying to put any flowers on me, because I'm just another person that's out here trying to survive this onslaught of Caucasian people. Now, remember about a year or so ago, your president, Mr. Bush, went to South Africa and was talking to Mandela down there and says he was trying to make Mandela disown Fidel Castro. And Mandela came right out and told him, says, no, you don't tell me nothing about Fidel Castro. Says, I would be in the jails right now if it wasn't for Fidel Castro. When Cuba sent troops all the way from Cuba into Africa and fought South African white folks and stopped them dead on their tracks and got Mandela out of jail and got the black folks out of that apartheid thing, whatever that is. Yeah, apartheid thing. These are the things that I wanted you to know about the Seminoles. And these are your people. But the Seminoles that's in Florida was the rebellious ones. They wouldn't give up and sign a treaty. And remember, when they won that war, and they went in Georgia and won that war, and they picked up all the slaves they could get their hands on, made the white man put them on the boat, and took them back to Africa, and took them to Liberia. Liberia is the country that they put them in. The word Liberia comes from the word liberty, means freedom. Those are people right from here, so-called American Negroes in Georgia, Alabama, and Florida. My folks was in Mississippi, so we didn't get to go down in Florida when we lost the other war. So they took them back there and they said, Seminoles, are you going to stay in Africa? He said, no. Since we were so successful in beating the white man, we're going back and free them all. And they came back and had another war in Georgia, around Brunswick, Georgia. And they lost that war. Half of them fled and went down in Alabama, the Everglades, because that's the biggest swamp in the United States. So we're swamp people. We hide out in swamps. They teach, when I was a little boy, 5 years old, from 5 years old to 9, I was taught how to kill white folks and how to survive in the swamps. All Seminole, my great-grandfather was like that. All my grandmother was that way. My mother, when I had one brother, and when she killed those 3 white men in Jackson, Mississippi, she took that brother with her because he was only a half-brother of mine. So she left me there with my grandmothers. And I didn't find my mother until I was 50-some years old. And all those many years she went to Chicago. I knew about it, but that's one thing you can credit our people for. That Underground Railroad, they kept their mouths closed. That was one thing you said, Negroes doesn't stick together. But that's one thing that they did stick together with. I can witness that. So those are one of the things that you can be credited to. Don't down your people. Keep them up. That's why they had 2 groups of Seminoles. One of them accepted the white man thing and said, we're going to take you on a reservation, and said, we're going to take you to Arkansas. They wanted to move them from the southwest part of the United States because the Seminoles beat their butts there and pick up all the slaves they could get home and made them put them on the boat and take them back to Africa. So they didn't want no Indians or no Seminoles down there. That's why they took them to Oklahoma. See? They said, we're going to take you to Arkansas, we're going to give you land and a reservation and all kind of promises. When they got to Arkansas, they said, oh, this ain't far enough, we're going to take you to Oklahoma. That's why the portion of the Indians is in Oklahoma, because the Seminoles beat the butts in Georgia and took them away. They didn't want them near that coast in Georgia because they figured they would get help from Africa. At that time, Africa was had a lot of power. Did you know that African people made United States pay toll to sail their ships up and down the Atlantic Ocean? They had to pay toll to do that until the United States went to war with some of the African countries and got their freedom from that. See, you don't get all of this in your college and your universities. You're not educated in the universities. You're trained to work for Mr. Charlie. Mm-hmm. Education comes from knowing your own story, not his story, your story. our story or us story. This is what you got to look for. Your story, not his story. You base on his story. That's why you worship him. He tell you about the tower, the Leaning Tower of Pisa, and all of those things. And Paris and not. I don't want to know anything about that. I want to know something about why my hair's nappy, why I'm this, and all that beautiful lips I got, and that rear end I got. They ain't got none rear end. Look at it. That was the reason why they hadn't rear. They crawled on their all fours in the caves of Europe for 2,000 years. That's why they're flat back there on the butt. Yeah, they don't have it. And you don't have to cringe up there and and talk right on out with your lips. Don't try to imitate white folks. Because you know right now you can go in the stores and the jogging when they start talking like white folks. Watch that nigga. He'll sell you out in a minute. He wants to be white. You don't need to want to be white. You want to be what you are. Black as tar. You know? That's the best. The blacker the berry, the sweeter the juice. That is the truth. When you start to getting that a slogan in your mind, then you're going to start to worshiping yourself. As I told you before, color of the skin, pigments in the skin doesn't make you white, nor it makes you black. You got a few black white folks, a few of them. So we don't worry about it. We'll pick them out later on when we get our freedom. We'll get them out. It's going to be ethnic cleansing. Every nation have ethnic cleansing someday or another. But as I'm saying to you, especially you young people, we need schools for ourselves to educate our people. Someday, our lying black preachers are going to get us together and get some schools to teach us our history, our story. We don't want his story. We want our story. Now, you can get some our stories in the universities, but it's all been polluted in some way or another. It's not all the absolute truth. But to get the absolute truth, you got to go back home. And incidentally, if you want to know some of the truth that you can get to, visit the Delta in Mississippi and talk to some of those old people back there. There's some of them back there 100 years old that can tell you things that happened during slavery time. All about things like that. That's why you should consult your older before you try to go forward, look back. The further you go back in your history, the further you go forward. See? You got to go back in order to come forward. Proof of that thing is, if you wanted a plumber, and you found a man that's been plumbing for 1 year, and here's another one over here that's been plumbing for 10 years, who you think you're going to hire? The 10-year man. Because he's got a 10-year, 9 more years than the other one. He's smarter than the others. So that's why you go get your smart stuff from is your parents. And all of us is got have got parents somewhere. Somebody knows something that you don't know. And they're older people. Well, I would like to say in Mexico, did I tell you about oh yes, I think I told you about that. If I doesn't use the proper English right, excuse me, because I only went to 3rd grade and I came out here in California during the war. when I was 5 years old, I had to leave my mother because, and I rode my first freight train when I was 9 years old. And I rode freight trains all over this country. There isn't hardly a railroad left that I haven't been on. The longest one to Angela's Flight. You remember Angela's Flight downtown? That's the shortest railroad. And I think the Union Pacific is the longest railroad. I've been on all of them. I have slept in a mini box car. I slept on the ground in many places because I had no mother and no father. My father was killed. My aunt was being raped by a white man in Jackson, Mississippi. And my father got on his motorcycle to go get his gun to come back and kill him. And a black man ran over him with a car and killed him in Jackson, Mississippi. That's how he died. My grandmother was about 80% on my father's side, about 80% Indian. And my grandmother on my mother's side was about 65% Seminole, Indian. So when you see Indians, you don't think of them being light-skinned, because some black Indians here too, all colors of the rainbow. But I want to tell you this right now. You don't praise no Indian, praise yourself. Everybody have messed over us. Everybody, brown, red, yellow, and white, and even the blacks. We have no friends. Start being a friend of yourself and your kind. Get with your own people and value that more than you do anything else. Nobody is good as you. I keep reminding you of that because I want to brainwash you from Mr. Charlie telling you that look like him. Pattern after them. Make up your own society. One of the things that are coming, I don't know whether I'm not promoting it, but it's good too, is Kwanzaa. That's a beautiful thing. That will subsidize a lot of this thing with that big fat white Santa Claus. See? Get away from that. That's a white man's thing that started in Germany. About the Christmas trees. They wanted to get some money out of that Christmas tree, so they put that Christmas tree and connected that with Christianity. See? Well, these are the things I talk so much. It's a long story some way. So as I rode freight trains all over the country, I've had many fights. I've never lost a battle in my life. I've had big men jump on me 200 pounds. My average weight since I got older, I weigh about 185 to 200 pounds. But I usually hold around about 185 pounds.
Hashim, we're rolling, Brother Hashim.
Yes, well, as I say, I rode all the freight trains that just about in the United States. I've been to Canada once or twice, but I've been in Mexico all the way down as far down as Panama. Every country down there except Belize. I haven't been in Belize. But I fought bulls down in Mexico. I was a matador. I went to school as a matador in Mazatlan, Mexico. The reason why I got involved with that sort of things in Mexico is because I finally found my mother when I was 55 years old. And I brought her here to California and lived with me. my stepfather and her. My stepfather stayed here about a year, and he died. And my mother was sick on her deathbed when I found her. But I had every doctor, every place I could get to take care of my mother, and I kept her alive for 11 years. I paid every dime of it. I worked night and day to take care of her. And she died after 11 years. And so during the time that she was here, it was hard for me to get a nurse to take care of her and to give her a bath. And that she got a bath every day, even if I had to give it to her. You see, I honored my mother and my mother, but my father was dead. I honored her. This is what you're going to have to do about your parents. You're going to have to honor them. And your parents is not just the ones who are your immediate parents. All old people are your parents. You don't raise a child by yourself. Remember that. The community in which you live in raises your child too. So, in order that I could get black folks, they won't work for black folks. We're mentally ill. All of us has something wrong with us. Just imagine 400 years of oppression. You're bound to have some defects somewhere. Some of us suffer one way and some of us suffer another way. But we all are messed up until we get a country of our own. This is what I'm fighting for right now. 6 months ago, I went to lobby in D.C. to lobby by NCOBRA. That's an organization that's fighting for 40 acres and a mule. To get that back out on the floor of the House, who was in the pigeonhole there, to get reparations for our black folks. I've been fighting on every front. Every front. You ain't got no special way to fight. Find out what you can do the best and do that. Do what you can do best for your own people. When you fight for your own people, some of them will make you sick. You just hate to even do anything to them. You say, oh, you get disgusted. But this is all we have. We got to convince our people to unite. Unity, God appears wherever unity is. Each and every one of you out there got God within you. Proof of that is every fingerprint, you got 10 fingerprints. There isn't another fingerprint like either one of the fingerprints on your hand. Can you imagine just how many people it is? Got 10 different fingerprints, and all of them are different. Well, God put part of Him in you. That is part of God in you. So you find that God in you and bring it out on the surface. Then, and then only, will we be real powerful people. See? Get that God out. Now, I might get kind of off on the subject and jump away around in this part, but I'm doing the best I can with what I have. I can't make speeches. I'm not a speech-making person, you know. So don't look for me to be one of those good guys that knows how to deliver things. I did deliver it the best I can. But as I say, as my grandmother on both sides, and my grandfather on both sides was all mixed blood, and they all was very proud of being mixed blood to the point that they disliked of the white race. They wasn't happy just to be have Indian blood in you. That's not the point. The point is that we couldn't get anybody to fight this white man, and the ones who ran away from him and went in the swamp, they were fighting type of people. Just like we got the Crips and the Bloods. The Crips and the Bloods are good people, but their mind's not right. They're fighting the wrong people. The wrong people. They should fight our enemy. We got to realize who our enemy is and fight that one. No, don't fight each other. If you get up a fight between one another, try to make peace with them. Say, brother, I don't want to fight you. I have seen little people wanting to fight me. You know what, black folks? You know, I said, brother, I don't want to fight you. And I let him think he'd win me, let him think I'm coward. If I can get out of fighting him, see, and walk away. And you know, you meet him 6 months later, and you have a friend. See, you get a friend. As long as he don't beat you, don't strike you, if you can walk away from him, fine. That's what to do. Maybe he'll become civilized later on. You have already become civilized because you got out of the fight. See? Now, as I said about those Seminoles in Oklahoma, they consider those Seminoles in Oklahoma to be Uncle Toms because they accepted reservations. Now, the ones in Florida have accepted a reservation because they sold us out of the nation. Of our tribe, took the tribe over as an Indian tribe in order that the white man would give them the casinos. That's casinos. They bought us out. See? But you should know that the Seminole Nation there, I was in Florida, and they got hostile towards me because I told them, you're not a Seminole, you're just a plain old Indian. And I think, Brother Sam, I send you the paper, don't I?
Yes, sir.
Ask him about the paper. Look at the paper and look for black faces in that paper. You see one once in a while. They have stole from us.
Identity.
Stole our identity and claiming it theirs. See? I keep trying to stress on you that you have no friend, but be a friend of yourself and your own kind. Be your own friend. That's all we got is ourselves. Unite by any means necessary. As Malcolm X says, by any means. Try to bring your brothers and sisters together with you. That is a very important thing. That's the only way we're going to ever get out of this mess that we're in. You know, when you see that old flag, the Star Spangled Banner go up, and the man puts his hand over his heart and his hat over his heart, he feels something. I don't feel nothing but contempt when I have to do that. When I'm in that pleasant, I won't do it now. I don't care what you do now. But I did it when I was so-called American Negro. See? I know better now. This is why you got to know better too. But I went to the 3rd grade in Mississippi, and you know they used to line us up out and to go into school. And before we went into school, we had to sing the Negro National Anthem? Do you people know that? Some of you don't even know the words. Never heard of it. These are the things you should know. You got your flag. Your flag out there, your national flag is red, black, and green. Marcus Garvey flag. My house in Altadena, I just painted it, and I still painting it now. Red, black, and green. And all the people in the neighborhood say, oh, what, why you didn't play? Now, if I'd have made it red, white, and blue, it would have been all right. See? But I did that deliberately because I want to have the pride of blackness and create pride of black. And now I got people coming by, they're looking at that house and saying many things about it. And I've got to put the pyramid out there in the middle. The reason why I haven't got the pyramid out, I had to go, I'm trying to find out which way the pyramid is setting according to the North Pole and the South Pole. See, there's a reason why the pyramid is shaped in particular ways, see? So as soon as I find that out, I'm going to put one out there that way. But as little things as you think about that's good for black folks, when you think about them, look it up and do something. But put unity the head of everything among yourselves. I always stress that point. Well, anyway, back to the freight trains now. I rode freight trains all over the United States. And I slept mostly in boxcars. But there has been many times, a couple of times, I'd like to bring you one about that freight train and show you about white people. I was up in Montana. Usually I stay up, go north in the summertime and come south in the, go north in the summertime, come south in the winter. But I got caught up in Montana up there. And it was snow up to your waist. And I was freezing. I was walking down the railroad track, almost dead. And you know, they have a little, you seen these little old cars, you go up and down, they pedal them like that on the freight train?
Yeah.
Called Hancock cars or something like that.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they have little houses, they put them in. And so it was so cold and the wind was blowing so hard, I went in this little house. And then when I went in that house, there was a white man in there, almost dead. Almost dead. I got that white man, put him on my back, and took him about 10 miles to houses up there. Houses are far apart in Montana, and got food for him, and got medicine for him, and brought him out, and saved his life, and took him all the way down in Paducah, Kentucky, on freight trains. And when I got down there, what they call the Hobo Jungles. You may not know what a hobo jungle is, but that's a place where all hobos stop and they make coffee there, and some of them bring something, the food here, and make a stew and stuff like that, and they all enjoy it. When I'm in the, I put him in there and took this guy there, and all white was in there. And so they told me, says, you come on in, but nigga, you can't come in here. That's what they told me. Said, you ain't coming in here. You get on out from here. So, but he stayed there with them. If a man just saves your life, you would say, if he can't eat him, I ain't gonna eat him. But that Peckerwood didn't do that. He stayed there with his people. See how the love he had for his people? He wasn't going to turn his people down for me. This is what you got to stop and think about. Don't turn your people down for no white people. None whatsoever. Even though you don't like a black person, don't go against your black brother for nobody. You understand me? They run me out of the Hobo Jungle. And he helped them run me out. I was turned out. I just want to show you, whatever you do, you're not going to be in favoritism of anything. I'm not trying to teach you hate. I'm teaching you facts. You can hate them if you want to, or you can love them if you want. Take your choice. I don't like white folks, never will like white folks. Tell them right to their face I don't like them. Everybody in Altadena knows, the sheriff department, the police department knows I hate your guts. And they come right to my house and I tell them right to their face, get away from me, you stink, I dislike you, I ain't gonna never like you. And so that's the way I live in Altadena. And you know one thing? I'm respected in that place. They don't bother with me because they know that I'm 85 years old, 84 years old. I have nothing to lose. I'm the most dangerous man to the white race there is. Because what have I got to lose but the chain on my brain? I don't mind dying. Dying is just another way of living. The only reason why I don't go out there and get a machine gun and start the white folk, I can't kill them all. See? And I got another plan to better than that, to get more of them. Okay? So I'm not telling you to take that attitude. I'm just telling you what mine is. Think for yourself. Okay? Well, anyway, I found out about white people in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I was one time I got caught up there in the cold winter. I didn't get out like I did in Montana. I got caught in Pittsburgh before I could come back in the south where it's warm at. And I had to go in a flop house. That's a flop house where they took in hobos and people off the street, you know. And they let us come in there, but they put us, 3 of us got in a little corner over there. And somebody went out there, and that's down called Wiley Avenue. That's like Central Avenue used to be. Some of you might know that. That was the black street. So somebody had got these 3 white men and done something to them, black person, and they come in there and stood up over my bed and this other guy, the other 2 guys' bed, and talked about our black folks, like, you niggas this, you niggas that, I'm gonna do this to you niggas. And I laid there on the bed and I said, I ain't got a dime, not even a nickel to ride the streetcar with. And I said, I don't want to go back out there. It was cold outside. But I took it as long as I could stand it. And I got up and stood up out on that porch, and I cussed them for everything I could think of. And I have lost my mind. I really lost my mind. I was ready to die. And when I got through talking there, and you know, a Peckerwood's party. You ever seen the big cowboy goes through a crowd and they part like that? I walked out of there and these 2 Negroes was laying there on the bed there. They laid down and took it. I told them, you gonna take this from these Peckerwoods? I said, hell, I ain't gonna take it. I said, I'm not gonna take it. And I wanted to die because they had a secretary, white woman in there, and I called her a bitch. Now you know You ain't supposed to call white folks women a bitch. I call it, I tried to get the fight. I tried to get a fight. And you know, I walked out of that door, and after I got out there and that cold air hit me in the face, and I said, what did I do in there? I could have gotten killed. It was 25 or 30 of them in there, and only one me. That's when I knew that a white man is a coward. I was trying to get a fight out of 30 people. And that's why I'm sitting here today. Come as you think about it, I want to tell you something about some of you might be drafted in this army. I want to bring that out too, for sure. Now, during World War II, I was 18 years old. And they caught me in 42, 41 or 42, and put me in the army. And they was paying $21 a month. And I drew the $21 a month. The man asked me, he says, you want some insurance? I said, yeah, I want the insurance, of $10,000 worth of insurance. He said, well, that'll cost you $10. And I said, $10? I said, you mean to tell me you're going to put me in this army? I said, I hate this army. See, Elijah Muhammad didn't teach me to hate. I hated white people ever since I was 5 years old. Yeah, I did. I've been hating white folks all my life. I'm not saying you do it, but I do. I'll be frank with you. And he said, 5 years, I said, give me all of my $21. That saved my life. I would not be sitting here today if I hadn't have said that. And I made him give me all my $21. I want to tell you this. Then we went to basic training, and we trained the people in 6 weeks, 6 or 8 weeks. And they called us all out, the whole squadron, and they took about 30 or 40 of us and took us over the time. And I said, what these white men going to do? They're going to kill us? They were figuring to send these guys overseas. And I said, what, they're going to kill us? And so I asked this guy on the right-hand side, I said, how much insurance you got? He said, I don't have no insurance. Well, I knew I didn't have any. And then I turned and asked this guy on the other side, says, how much insurance you got? And he said, I ain't got none either. And so there's one guy down the way there was a college graduate, you know. He looked at me and our eyes met together, and he did this to me. He said, and then he finally eased over there where I was. He says, are you thinking what I'm thinking? I said, yeah. He says, but I'm going to find out. So he went up to the headquarters up there. You know, he could read all the books and the Bibles. You know, Army got Bibles, you know, that tells you what the regulations are and everything. So that night, about 2 o'clock that night, he come back and woke me up in my bed, and we went outside the barrack. He told me, he said, the Army regulation gives you, you can't send a man overseas unless he's insured for $10,000. He said, that's what the Army says. And I said, yeah? He said, well, don't tell nobody. I said, I ain't gonna tell nobody. Well, they made me a category then. That was that bunch over here, about 30 or 40 of us made category. So we would stay here in the United States and went round and round and trained other people to go overseas. So that saved my life 2.5 times. 2 times they went over, the Japanese sunk the boat with the first crew we trained, killed every one of them. The next crew went over there and sunk the boat and killed them, all of them. And the third one went over there and half of them got on an island, they killed half of them. So I'm supposed to be dead 2.5 times. So reason why I'm telling you this, if old Bush gets the draft coming up on you, don't take the insurance. They plan on getting women and drafting you and women in there too. That's what they're planning on. I got in the wind, you know. You get information from Washington, D.C. We got think tanks too. You heard of think tanks. Well, Washington, D.C. is 80% of black, and about 80% of the people in there is women, secretaries and stuff. That's the biggest bulk of black women in the world, right in Washington, D.C. So how are you going to keep a secret from them and when they're secretaries? You see? White man can't hardly keep a secret. So we got in the wind of that. That's how it's come about. We know about that. So if they come to draft you, put you in the army, now they will take $10 from me, but now the government pays that $10. So, but don't sign that paper. Wherever you see insurance, don't sign the paper. Nobody can make you take insurance. Don't take no insurance. They can't send you overseas if you're not strong enough to tell them, hell no, I ain't going in your army in the first place. See? That's what you should tell them. But if you weak and can't do that, then don't take the insurance. You pass that around to your people at school. So just don't get the insurance. Read that little fine print in there. They put it in the fine print so you don't understand it. Just like fine print when these car dealers and these crooked people give you a list that's long, they read signs good up here. Going down past halfway, as soon as they get past halfway, just before they get to the bottom, they put that clause in there, one little line in there. And so by the time you read down here to here, you get tired of reading, and you say, oh well, and you skip over that, you go down there, well you just sign yourself in jail, right there. You got to read everything. That's why they put the clause in there about this far from the bottom. So remember that. I just wanted to bring that out to you so you would understand that. Don't sign it. If you can't tell them, no, I don't want it. I ain't getting in your army. Muhammad Ali didn't go in. You understand? And look at the respect he's got today. You've got to stand up and be counted. Stand up because you're better off dead. You're going to die anyway. You might as well die for what you believe in. And to sit here in the slow death, that's what he's killing us right now, slow death. You ain't got the jobs you should have. You go to school and get the college graduate, and the white boy go to the same school, get the same college graduate. He comes out and owns the firm, and you go out and work for him. Yep. You're not getting an education, you're getting a training. You can't get an education because they teach you nothing about yourself. White folks only have 33rd degrees. You heard of the Masons. 33rd degrees. He can't get any more than 33rd degree. Degrees mean knowledge of self. So there's 360 degrees in all knowledge, ain't it? The whole circle is 360 degrees. That's only a slice out the pie. He can only get 33rd degrees because he's only 6,000 years old. 7,000 years wasn't no white people on the planet. See? Now, an Indian here in America, he's 16,000 years old, so he gets his degree a little bit more. See? And a Chinaman is 25,000 years old, he got a little bit more. And the Indian is a little bit more, he's 35,000 years, a little bit more. But what about the complete circle? That's 360 degrees. You got 360 degrees because you ain't got no birthday. See, all those people made in about, they got birthdays. Black folks ain't got no birthday. They're old as God. They was created by God. These other people was not created by God. They were made. They're made people, abstracted from the wombs of the black woman. Mixing, you pollute yourself when you mix. That's pollution. Remember that. Remember that. Pollution. That's exactly what it is. Some people say, well, I mean, yes, I'm polluted. I'm polluted with an Indian. I'm not happy about that. I'm not happy about that at all. But what can I do about it? I'm already here now. See? But at least you ain't going to pollute this mind. No, no. I'm going to keep this mind flowing black regardless until the day that I'm put 6 foot below. I'm never going to stop. I hope I've said something that might be beneficial to you. I have tried my best to. And some of you will understand that all of us are, as I said before, have something wrong with us because we have been made wrong by our enemy. And the reaction from one will be one way, and then be another way, and another way. And so you see some of the people say, that's a crazy nigga. All of us are crazy. 400 long years of oppression, you got to be crazy. We're strong. Look at the Indians. There was more Indians in here than they brought slaves over here. They're almost extinct. You hardly see a true Indian now. And incidentally, I didn't mention about Indians and Mexicans and Latin people don't get along together. Because Indians don't like nobody mixing with them. Indians and Spanish primarily is what Mexicans are made of. All of those Central American people, Guatemalans and Honduras and Nicaraguas, and they're mixed with Indian. And primarily the Spanish, Mexicans are mixed with everything. That's why they call them mixed up people. See? Don't look at those people and think they're nice or equal with you. Nobody's equal with you. Nobody is good as you. Because God created you. And if you think he's good as you, how can man make a people better than God? That's common sense, common thinking. Isn't that right? You see that? So if you say that somebody is better than you, you're saying that I can make somebody better than God. God created you from zero. That was nothing. So he either stood up on the right-hand side or the left-hand side and produced you. Talk to your people. Talk to all of the children you know of and try to lift them up. Never talk them down. Never tell a brother or sister that you ain't no good, never will be no good, you're just another nigga. Don't say that. Tell him, come on, maybe you know he's wrong. But give encouragement to him to do better. Come on, brother. Come on, sister. We can do better. You see? You understand? We as Muslims get the Crips and the Bloods together so often and talk to them and tell them and try to keep them from fighting each other and say, if you're going to fight somebody, go fight our enemy, or both of us, and we'll all be free. But if you fight each other, we'll never be free. We'll never be nothing. Well, okay.
Brother Hashim?
Yes.
Let me, Brother Hashim, bring Brother back. Brother Hashim, before you stop, and before the end, let me, two things if you will. I would like for you to touch base on more about your mother how you found her, and kind of and sum that up, if you will.
Yes.
Because you didn't really deal with that. The other thing is, I like to leave a little time so if they have any questions whatsoever, then they can address those questions, and hopefully they should have some questions. I know I would have some
I
questions.
know.
And then let them then ask those questions, and let's do that for the balance of the time. Is that
All
fine with
right.
you?
That's
So go with you, your mother leaving, and you talked about the army and the military, and then how you have, after looking for your mother for the last 50 years, and you finally found her, and
I'll
what you
do it.
did.
I'll do it.
Got it. Do that.
I got it.
All right. Go right ahead.
Well, are we still working here?
You're still rolling.
We're rolling. As I say, that my mother left me at 5 years old, and we smuggled her out from Mississippi, and she went to Chicago. She swam the Ohio River. You see, my mother's great swimmers. All Seminoles are great swimmers. They teach you this in many ways. She swam the Mississippi River. I swam the Mississippi River, Ohio River, and the Missouri River. And all of them a mile across. And that's something. So when I was 9 years old, I took the freight train to try to find my mother. I had an uncle who lived in Memphis, and my uncle was a Pullman porter, and he knew my mother. He knew she was in Chicago. And he said he met her in Chicago after he found her in Chicago. He says he lived on the 3rd floor. Well, by me living in Jackson, Mississippi, and down there, I thought everybody in town knew everybody. I never seen all that many people in all my life. And so that's the first place I went to Chicago. He told me she lived on Indiana Street. That's a long street, much longer than Figueroa. Figueroa is one of the longest streets in the world. And it's about twice as long as Figueroa, or 3 times. It goes clear on out of Chicago. So I rode the passenger train all the way up downtown Chicago, and I got on Indiana Avenue. And I thought that I went down the street and I never seen so many people in all my life. And I thought they had told me what my mother looked like. And I knew a lady that looked just like mother. I was looking for her. Somebody looked like that. And I was looking up on the 3rd floor on both sides of the street. I walked all the way out of there, probably 50 or 60 miles at most, to find my mother. And I didn't find her. I couldn't find her in all that till I was 50-some years old, and I brought her out here. And how I found my mother is, I went back on my vacation, and I took my son with me. And we went to Memphis, and I asked my uncle, the one who was a Pullman porter. I said, "You know more about my mother than anybody else." I said, "Would you go down to Yazoo City with me and try to help me find my mother?" Oh, he said, "Oh, I don't know. Your mother ain't no good." I mean, he and my mother didn't get along. He said, "Oh, she ain't nothing. She ain't nothing." I said, "Well, listen, I don't care what you think she is." I said, "That's my mother. I want to find my mother. I don't care what she's doing or what she ain't." You see? And he stood and waited a while, and finally he said to me, "Oh, yeah, I'll go." So he got in his car and he drove down to Yazoo City, and I found a blind woman on Jefferson Street in Yazoo City, Mississippi. A blind woman led me to my mother. Stone blind. She says, "Boy, I don't know. I think I know somebody that knows your mother." And so he said, "But it was on a Saturday morning." And he says, "If you come back up here tomorrow morning, which will be Sunday," said, "he'll be here, and he might can help you find her." So I said, "All right." I said, "I'm going down to Jackson to meet another uncle of mine down there, and I'll be back here in the morning." That's 45 miles away. So I drove on back there. That morning I was there at 8 o'clock. He picked up the phone, and when met this guy, he picked up his phone, and I thought he was calling whole town. He called Chicago. He met, I'm showing you one thing about it. The people in Mississippi carries history in their head. That's why you keep it in your head, just like I'm telling you about the Seminoles. You keep it in your head. Nobody, you can't write it on the book because you don't know how to write. So he called up there and he found one of his daughters. They knew somebody else. They knew somebody else, and they knew my aunt. And my aunt knew my mother. That's how I got in touch with my mother. And I was supposed to come back here to work with Douglas Aircraft. And so I was on my way home. And when she said, boy, I talked to my aunt on the phone, I didn't even know her. And she said, yeah, your mother's here. You come on up here, come and see her. I said, honey, I'm on my way right now. And my son and I went there, and we walked into the place. And on my way, I said, well, honey, I told my son, I said, let's eat some dinner. I said, we're going to stop at that Muslim restaurant and get some food. I said, my mother may be one of them hog eaters. And I said, we don't want to insult her right off the bat. So we stopped at the Muslim restaurant to eat. We found out, black folks can tell you what a Muslim is in Chicago. So we got in the restaurant and ate our dinner. And then I got the phone and called my aunt on the telephone. And she said, come on up there to 39th Street. And we got and drove up to 39th Street. And my mother wasn't there. And so she called her mother and told her to come on down there that I was there. And so when I got in there and my mother walked in that door with the Muslim outfit on, and my son says, are you he was going to ask her, well, she's a Muslim. And I looked at him with a dirty look. I said, shut your mouth. You know how your mama tell you when, shut up. You know when they look at you certain ways, you tell them, they mean keep your mouth closed or shut up. And so I said, shut up. I didn't want him to say nothing to her because she might be one of them holy roly people and may not get the message over. And so after a while she told me. And I knew that was my mother. The only reason why I knew that was my mother is because the house that I was born in Yazoo City on Jefferson Street has a system in the kitchen. And the system in the kitchen, system means where the water on top of the house would come down in there and go in that system, and we would drink that water. That's how black folks had to live in Mississippi. Some of them are living that way right now. We are still suffering from oppression. And she told me about that system. I knew right away that was my mother. But she knew I was her son by looking at me. See, but I didn't know her by her. The only way I knew that was my mother is because she told me about that system. And I said, oh. And then I told her I was a Muslim. That was the most happiest day in my whole life, to find my mother. That is the honest truth. I've never been so happy in all my life. I have never had nobody care nothing about me, even my uncles and aunts. And they were married to different people, and I'd wake up at night in their house, and I'd hear them hollering, well, you got this nephew here, and you don't, and we got to take care of him. And so that's when I was 9 years old. I got 9 years old. I said, I'm going to get up and get out of here. That's why I rode my first freight train when I was 9. When I was 9 years old, I rode the first freight train, and I didn't get off the freight train fully until I was 18, and they put me in the Army. And I hated the Army. I told them right then and there I hated it. I said, I hate the Army. I don't want nothing new. And of course, they didn't know that I was planning on the Army. I said, as soon as I get that rifle, I'm going to kill me some white folks. Yeah, I had planned that. So when I got in the Army, they had a school there for cook and baker school. So I said, this is a better thing. I said, I go to cook and baker school and I can poison them all. Because, see, I know how to make poison dots. And I had planned to poison the whole army. This is the truth. This is the absolute truth. But, as I said, back to my mother, so when I found my mother, she walked in that door. That was a beautiful day. And so my mother didn't want to come to California because she heard about them earthquakes and things. But I come back and told my wife, I said, well, we're going to have to, if my mother don't come here, I'm going to quit this job and I'm going to Chicago. See? And incidentally, I'm a very independent person. I've been a millionaire. When I was in the Army, I sold whiskey in the Army and made $1 million. I'm not proud of that. I won't do that sort of thing now. But I did it then. I had $1 million walling on the floor in Columbus, Ohio, in a hotel.
You got what?
$1 million. Took me 3 days to count it. I had $1 million. I had so much money in the air base in Florida until the colonel called me in.
Excuse me. Thank you, Rob.
The colonel called me in the office and told me, he says, Sergeant Hunt, my name was Hunt then. Sergeant Hunt, you got more money than anybody on this base. He says, get that money out of here. And when the colonel of the base, commander called me in there, the people said, oh, they're going to prosecute him. They got him for whiskey now. So when I come back and he says, get that money off of this base, he says, Washington, D.C. find out that the sergeant got all that money in here, some heads going to roll. He said, give me a pass to go home. And I went home to meet my aunt. Hadn't met my mother at that time, see. And she was the best mama that I ever had, was my aunt on my daddy's side. So, as you say, money, a fool and his money will soon depart. Don't forget that. If you gave every black man, woman, and child in the United States $1 million in 30 days or 6 months, they'd be worse off because we don't know what to do with money. I'm richer now than I ever been in my life, and I ain't got nothing. But I got right here. That's where the money is. That's why we talking this place about 40 acres and a mule. We want land. Land, you can get your own money. You can get everything from land. Now, back to my mother. I brought her here, and I could not hardly get black folks to take care, nurses to take care of her. So they'd work a week or 2 weeks, and they want more, and I paid them well. And I finally got a Mexican who was living over here illegally. And so she was a nurse in Mexico. She took care of my mother fine. So the immigration department got in touch, got in the wind of it. And so they wanted to deport her. And so the only way I could save her to take care of my mother was to marry her. So I married a Mexican woman. That was after I had divorced, my first wife divorced me. And I married her, and I stayed married to her several years until my mother died. That's how I got involved with bullfighting in Mexico, the Spanish language, and this sort of thing. That's, my mother died, and that's where I am today, by myself.
What about your children? Do you have children?
My children, I have 5 children by my first wife. I didn't have any by the Mexican woman. She had 5 children of her own in Mexico. They know me well. I go to Mexico all the time. I own a house down in Mexico that I'm selling right now in Chapelo, Mexico. And I'm selling it because I'm going to have to buy a house up here early first because I do offshore trust. That's invest money in things out of the United States. This is what black folks need to know much more about. Offshore trust is why you invest money in other countries and you get good dividends and good pay. I have gotten as high as 42% interest off of money in Brazil. Now, where are you going to get that? I can't get it right now, but
What is it called again?
offshore trust. And if you want to know about the offshore trust, go to your library and ask the librarian. Says, I would like to have some books on offshore trust. Don't tell them what you're trying to do. Just tell them you want to read up about it and get the book and go home and read it. That's how you can hide your money and keep old Uncle Sam from taking it from you. But you got to have, you talk to your father here. I'm going to tell him a lot of things about that, and he'll relay it to you, how to do it. But anyway, I think have I covered everything concerning my,
I'm gonna ask
what you think?
a question.
Yeah, of course. I think you have just about your mother, the fact that you took care of her and how you took care of her and so forth. And so I think at this time, if we can get questions for the balance there, I'm sure they have some questions. I have some questions, so we'll let them go.
All right.
I was gonna ask you a question, and that was about when you were, I guess, what, 4 or 5, when you learned how to do the swamp swimming,
Yeah.
and you said it was just everybody knew how to do it, that you were brought up to do that.
Yeah.
Learning how to swim the swamp.
Yeah.
What was that a traditional thing in what the Seminole area?
Seminoles is a tradition.
Were you raised among the Seminoles, which were part of the blacks or Africans, or were they separate, or were they a connection with a group of blacks?
It's just a family tradition that was Seminoles that knew all the blacks that was Seminoles did not want to respect in Jackson and Mississippi the bloodline.
So this was a Seminole trait.
Seminole
Yeah.
trait, yeah.
So, but there were African Seminoles, and then there were Africans that lived among the Seminoles or lived nearby. Or what?
They left just as if you live next door to a Mexican today. A Seminole may live next door to them. It was kind of a family thing.
Okay.
And some of the blacks was over here that didn't go along with the Seminoles, though they may be mixed with Seminoles, but they didn't go with it.
So the majority of your family line was Seminole, and so that was more instilled in you, some of the traits of the Seminoles.
Yes.
Such as, like, you said the swimming, because I was kind of fascinated about, you saying that, they taught from a very early age how to hide in the swamps, or how to know the swamps, or how to kill a white person. They was raised on that. What were some of the, I don't know if you remember, what were some of the specifics about how you were trained? Do you have any other brothers and sisters first?
Yeah.
You have any siblings?
No, I didn't have a brothers or sisters.
You were only child?
My old brother, my brother was, but I didn't know him.
You didn't know him.
I didn't know him. He left when I was 5 years old.
So what were
But
you?
he
What were
was-
you? First, oldest, youngest? Were you the
He was
youngest child?
older than me. He was about 3 years older, less than 3 years.
So it was
but
two boys?
no, just the two of us.
Two of you?
Uh-huh. And he was put in the river too.
Really?
Yeah, he knows too. His
Who
name
taught?
was
The father taught or the mother taught?
the
or both?
whole family taught that.
Really?
Yes.
Can you just give me like a hypothesis of like what was it like? What was like a day of learning that? Which you were just at what age and what was it like? Just give me
Here.
a synopsis of what
These
you went through.
the majority, the people in his family, right?
Right. Well,
The same thing that you got here now was the same thing went through our family as Seminoles. The next door neighbor is not the family he may not be. But our family was like that. And we had other families, Seminoles, that lived in Jackson, Mississippi like that too. But some of them went along with when they picked them up, they went along with the Seminoles. When the white man took them to Oklahoma, they went on with the Seminoles there. We didn't. We stood back and went back on the plantations because we didn't want to go with that Oklahoma thing. My family didn't.
Were you the ones, like, I don't know, like, because I know they did like a documentary on the Seminoles, the Indians.
Indians.
And the Indians, and a matter of fact, the black people didn't, yeah, the black Indians, they didn't even know that they were black Indians. And some of them, yeah, went away to Oklahoma or to the south, and then another portion of them were.
They walked. You remember the
Marcheteers.
Marcheteers.
Yeah.
They marched them all the way over there. See,
From where to where, Brother Hashim?
They marched them from Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, and Florida.
Now, who's they? They marched who? Who did what?
The white man.
Okay.
The army came in there and marched them all the way over there, and many of them died on the way.
Drove them out, really.
Really drove them out. But they started them off as going to give them something, and to get them started. And so when they got over to Mississippi, we didn't want to. Our family didn't want to go with it, and then several other families didn't go. So we would rather go back and being niggers, you know.
I have it now.
And to be going in there, because we was too far from Florida. The ones who went down into Florida and rebelled, we were too far from them to go there. So we were cut off. We couldn't go from Mississippi to Florida. So we had to go back into being black folk, nigger.
Brother Hashim, didn't it start in the Carolinas when they walked them all the way from the Carolinas?
They a lot of
through years. It took years to walk them through, and most of the people died. The children, the older people all died.
When you say they, you have to be specific because they don't know who they is.
That's a good point. Right. It was like the concentration camps, the way they did Japanese, or like they did black people.
Yeah.
When I say the Indians, the people that was Indians, they occupied all of the United States, and the white man wanted that land.
Yes.
They wanted that territory, and then they had to bust them up, see, because they were still united.
Yes.
And they were together. So the white man went in, first of all, and put them in kind of a concentration kind of camp, and then, like a house arrest. Then he came back later on after he once got them all rounded up, and then he started walking them and say, hey, we're going to find a place for you all.
Told them they were going to Arkansas.
I'm going to jump one quick. And then after he got them all the way to Florida, one of the biggest wars that the United States had with the Seminole or the Black Indians down in Florida for 7 years with the federal government. Not like this army that's over
They held them off.
Just like the one that's in Iraq. For 7 years right there in Florida, they fought hand-to-hand combat for 7 years.
That was the last war that they had when they took the Seminoles won the war in Georgia, and they put them on the boat and took them back to Africa. Then they said, Seminoles, are you going to stay in Africa? I said, no, since we were so successful beating the white man, we're going back and have another, we're going to free them all. And we came back and had that other war. And so the bulk of us fled and went down in Florida, but we fought them all the way down into Florida to almost Everglades, and that was the bloodiest war of all of them.
But they don't hear. You don't hear that.
You don't hear none of that.
No.
What year was that?
That was in 1800s.
Around the Spanish-American War also.
Yeah.
During the same time.
That was the
He had a
same
lot of
thing
wars
that
going on
happened.
during that time. So the question, Brother Hashim.
Yeah.
Did they drive the Seminoles to Oklahoma because they didn't want you guys helping the black people that was coming from Africa to be slaves? Or?
Yeah, they drove the ones that the crew that was weak enough to believe what the white man would tell you with a treaty. They accepted that offer to go to Oklahoma. See, and that's why we didn't. My family was in Mississippi. We wouldn't. We didn't. They tried to get us in there so we wouldn't go. We denied Seminole and went back in with black folks. So we didn't want to go there. We wanted to go to
You would rather be, would have rather been in the slavery.
slavery than to go to Oklahoma. So what we really wanted to go is the ones in Florida, but we couldn't get to Florida. It was too. The white man was between us and Florida.
It was war going on.
War
Can I
going
say
on.
one quick thing, brother? And you go ahead and elaborate. The fact that Oklahoma didn't exist, folks, only 100 years ago. See, Oklahoma was one of the last states.
Yeah.
It was a territory.
Yeah,
A territory,
that's a
like a
territory.
protectorate. And nobody lived in that area but the renegade white people,
Yeah.
renegade Africans,
Yeah.
which is the slaves,
Yeah.
and renegade Indians.
Yeah, that's right.
And so there was a territory, and if you want to do something, if you want to rob a bank or whatever, whatever you want to do or whatever it is, you go, and that was what they call a badlands.
Yeah.
Now, Oklahoma didn't exist. Arkansas, that was part of Arkansas. So what they did in Kansas cities and
Yeah.
places like that, if no such thing as Oklahoma.
Mm.
So he went as a white man. So what he would do, anytime
telling the
anybody
truth.
do anything, then you would just get your, run down in Oklahoma,
Yeah.
down in the Badlands, and the government didn't
Couldn't
come
get
down there.
you.
Why? Because they had army. They were renegades.
Mm-hmm.
All of that Mexico and Oklahoma and Texas was badlands. They call it badland, and it was a protected. The white man had they call it territory. It didn't belong to America. In other words, it didn't belong to the white man.
Unclaimed territory.
That's right. It was unclaimed territory, and he finally claimed it and say, okay, but it was a territory, just a territory, like Louisiana. Louisiana was something that he took from the French.
Yeah.
Took it all from Haiti all the way through
Up to Montana.
all the way to Canada.
Yeah, Canada.
That all belongs to the French. So
Yeah.
he took, and then from Haiti all the way through Louisiana,
Mm-hmm.
all the way up north, all the way to Canada, was
Mhm.
all French. And he went in there. That's what they call the Louisiana Purchase. He probably gave him about $2 and say, see what
Yeah.
he wanted. Like he said, the Indians sold, New York for $3 or $4. That's that.
So my folks, instead of being marched on that, we went on the Hunt's plantation. So we went on the Hunt's plantation.
That's where your last name came from.
Yes, where the last name came from, my slave name. So I changed my name since then, and according to my name on the books in Mississippi was named Raymond.
You changed
It
it
was-
way back then?
Huh?
You changed it way back a long time ago?
No, I changed it since I came out here in 1950 something.
You said it's Ray, what it, your first-
Raymond Hunt.
Oh, you're, okay.
But I had changed my name from Raymond because when I was in Jackson, Mississippi, I had a dog named Raymond, and I didn't want to name my name after that dog. And so I took my father's name, which was Robert Hunt. See? He
Now,
was
do you
dead.
remember your father at all?
No, I don't remember my father. I had a picture of him, but I lost it somewhere. I got a picture of my mother, my grandmother, my great-grandmother on both sides of my family. And I got all of those pictures on my wall right now. And
You were raised, you said, by your aunt, maybe?
my aunt, and from one relative to another relative, and I'd wake up at night and I hear them saying, "Oh, you got him," but the mothers of the mate didn't like it, said taking care of me. And so I had one uncle that had married a woman that she was a good woman now. I never talked down about Benny Mae. She was a good woman. So she had a son before she married my uncle. And my uncle didn't want that son staying in the house with me, but he took me in the house, and I'd hear him arguing at night, wake up and hear him argue, said, "You got your nephew in here, and you won't let my son stay here." So I heard that one night, and I said, "I'm gonna get out of here." And I'm 9 years old,
Really?
and that's what took me. I took the road right then and there. And that has benefited me. You said, because I'm a very independent person. Today, you can't stop me if you take off all my clothes buck naked, and I bet you before I get downtown to Los Angeles, I'll have something because I will work. You can't stop a man that's determined to be something. And and I ain't never gonna intend to do it. Did you have a question?
No.
Yeah.
Can you tell them about your skating? He's roller skating?
Yeah, I roller skate now.
Really?
Yeah. Well, on wheels, if you come over. Yeah.
You gonna work on wheels?
Yeah, I go out there in my car. I got my skates in the car right
Can you
now.
show them the crack?
Uh-huh.
So what night do you go on?
Oh my
Huh?
goodness.
I go every Tuesdays and Thursday nights when I have time. Tuesdays and Thursday night is adult night. You got to be 20, 22 or 21 years old to go in there. Yeah, you can go.
It's been a couple of years, but I have a friend who skates.
Uh-huh. Well, you ask your friend, did he know that old man that's over there that skates on? I'm the oldest man there, and
Really?
yeah.
What made
You
you
made your own roller skate?
No, I bought them. I set this aside, and I have a. You see,
roller skate rink?
Oh, you made your ring.
uh-huh.
You have a roller.
You see what happened is I broke my hip. Bull broke my hip down in Mexico. I was fighting the bull, and instead of getting the bull and going around this way, I brought the bull around this way and took him, bring him, instead of taking him there, I took him out, and the back end caught me. You see, I was on this side, the back end caught me. So, but reason why I started roller skating because it exercises my hip. I don't skate very fast now on that account. But I was skating before I was bullfighting. You can't tell me what I can't do, because I can do anything. And that's what I would love to insert in your mind. You are somebody that you can do anything you put your mind to. Get your mind right. And that's where everything happened. I raised my hand. Where did it start? Right here before it got down there. It's your mind you got to get right. But I roller skate over there every Thursday night. In fact, I roller skate all when I go back east all the time. I keep traveling all the time. I drive most of the time. And I roller skate in St. Louis, Chicago, Detroit, Cleveland. Yeah.
You travel?
Huh? Savoy. Yeah. I've been it's about there's two skating rinks in Chicago. I've been to both of them. Yeah.
Oh, it's a skate rink?
I think I remember that name. I can't keep the name of all these.
Ice skating or
Roller skate. I can't ice skate, but I said one day I'm gonna try it. Yeah. So a lot of the people say they can't skate. If I'm 84 years old and skating, you sure could be able to do it.
Asia.
Be quiet.
I knew you were gonna say that.
Huh?
I knew you were
I
gonna say
gave her a
that.
skating party when she was 10
yeah,
and
she
she
fell
could
in the
not
sky.
skate.
Yeah.
Can't skate.
Yeah.
They got to the beat road.
Is there any more questions?
No.
Yeah. Huh?
when's your next trip, brother?
Huh?
When is your next trip?
Oh, I think it would be next month, a month after.
Oh, not at this point. Where can you go?
I'm going to go to Savior's Day in Chicago.
Are you going to drive?
Huh?
Are you going to drive?
I'm debating that because it's kind of cold in Chicago.
Do you actually drive?
I might show up in a boat on a wheel. Well, anyway, I go all kinds of ways.
You just came back from where did you?
I just came back from Mississippi
How long ago was that?
4 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago.
You drove?
No, I drove.
So you have family back there still?
I got a couple of cousins. That's all.
Oh, really? You go
You just,
visit?
what do you do when you go? Just traveling? Just to
I travel to different organizations. See, I belong to several organizations like Nicoba, and I'm getting into the Deacons. Anything that's anti-white, I'm with it. If you're gonna do something to white folk, I'm the man to see.
You're all posted on the internet.
Yeah, oh yes.
You're on the internet then.
I'm gonna get my.
Are you on the website?
No,
Does your
I'm
name
getting
come
that.
up?
I'm gonna get that. I got some people that's gonna show me
probably
which one
already know
to
about
to
you.
buy. So I'm gonna buy that.
Brother Hashim, don't let me interrupt, but we're near the end. Let me just say a couple of things.
Yeah.
Aaron had a real quick question.
Oh, somebody had a question?
Yes, Aaron.
Go right ahead, Brother Aaron.
Sister Aaron.
Sister Aaron.
Your
Go
granddaughter.
right ahead.
Who?
No, I was going to tell exactly what I was going to talk about. That's what I had in my mind. I was going to talk about well, we only have one. This is my grandson, and I wondered, what would you advise for a young black man? I know you talked about the army, but I'm putting him kind of on the spot, but I'm putting him on the spot because you put the sisters on the spot. And when he's got one black man, that he's got to be able to understand the scope of the responsibility. Is that right?
That's
got
right.
to understand it.
That's him right there.
Knowledge is the only thing that's